I always thought being selfless was like the best way to serve people. And part of being selfless is what led me to doing too much and sacrificing myself. And I had a mentor tell me that you need to put yourself first, which is hard for me to realize, but I realized it the hard way. Just you can't be your best for everybody else if you don't take care of yourself.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Exit Is Now podcast. Hanging out with my friend Justin, who just drove 5 hours to be on a 1 hour podcast, drive 5 home after this to go see his son play some basketball. He got and invited to a big basketball camp, a family man, of which we're going to get into because it's very, if it's really like you present it to be on all your socials, you got a great family, man. So welcome to the podcast, and I can't wait to dive deeper with you.
Thanks for having me. Obviously, I wanted to be here with him.
Yeah.
Driving.
Yeah, man. He's driving, stopping to charge his car. But I can't believe you did that. I'm super thankful that you did come in. For our EPI audience and folks that joined us at the summit last year in 2023, you might know Justin. He was, I think, one of the number one rated speakers. And out of the 5 power session speakers, I rewatched it to get reacquainted with what your message has been preparing for this show. I didn't realize you were the first. I mean, I had guessed, I'd forgotten. You were the first one up. And I didn't really know you all that well back then, but thank God we did put you first because you set that thing on fire. So if part of the EPI community, you might have seen him there. I always say that when we talk about you here in the office, you're probably the coolest CFP that we know. And you have multiple brands. He's the founder of the RLS Wealth. The co-founder of the AGC, which I want to dive into because I think super unique, and I think it's actually would be wildly helpful to a lot of our CEPAs. You are also the founder of Pursuit. That's how you say that?
Yes.
Good
job.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, you have it on the website, so I was just trying to follow what you're teaching us, and then also his book, More Than Money, and a brand new author, right? Like this just came out like a year ago.
Came out this year.
Yeah. So. Thanks for being on the show, and I guess let's just kind of dive in. I think by trade, perhaps, you're a financial advisor, certified financial planner. But really, when I think of you more as of an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur mindset. So do you feel the same way about yourself?
Yeah, I have this idea where I want to move from being a financial advisor. Entrepreneur, I would say yes. I think financial advisor who happens to be a creator.
Yes.
Which I would say entrepreneur. Yeah. And I'm trying to transition and move and position my businesses and my work to be a creator who happens to be a financial advisor. Okay. And that subtle shift kind of guides where I'm going in the future with my message and everything. So I will always be a financial advisor. I love that work. But through 18, 19 years of being an advisor, I have learned some things that kind of pulled me in a different direction. And I think there's ways that I can impact my clients and future clients in the profession in ways that are tied to financial planning, but outside of what most financial advisors talk about.
So as a creator, and that's a good way to put it, by the way, too, because if you look at your influences that you talk about, Jay-Z, that's one of probably most unique conversations we'll have, right? Jay-Z, Rihanna, Mark Wahlberg. Did you see his documentary about his businesses?
Yeah.
Have you watched that?
Yeah, the one on HBO?
Yeah, is it on HBO or Netflix? Well, it goes through his time at COVID.
Yeah, that was HBO Max. It was the one where it shows all the different businesses.
Yeah, and how he navigated the pandemic.
Yep.
He in the you remember the section where he gets 5 hotel rooms so he can gut them and put workout equipment in.
Yeah.
But you said you're if you read your bio, you said that those are some of your biggest influences. What do they all have in common, or what Jay-Z to Rihanna to Mark Wahlberg, what influences you from that? Because I think it's unique.
Those influences on me go to the fact that they are able to do multiple things. So there's a book called Essentialism. Okay. And there are some people who they do one thing really, really well, and that's what they're known for. And I've tried to do that, but I can't. Like I have to experience different versions of myself is how I explore. So the fact that you mentioned I have RLS Wealth, there's the AGC, there's Pursuit, there's this new idea of the authentic life.
Right.
I have interests that I want to go pursue, and I think those bring opportunities, and they are all able to be multifaceted. Jay-Z's a rapper, but he also had a clothing brand in the past, and he's an investor, and he does all these things. Rihanna's the same thing. She has a big beauty line and clothing line. Wahlberg has all of his businesses. And the fact that they're able to do their main thing very, very well, but then also be able to do these other things that obviously interest them, I want to be able to do that. And that's why they're such big influences on me. Yeah.
Do you think that by going in all directions, is it hard for you to focus on like doing one thing well? I ask because if you look around the podcast studio, these are all the influences like in my life, right? So you had the company that I sold, M&S Connection, and then I went after typically, kind of typical owner back then, where I fell into this like place where I kind of lost who I was because I really identified as the guy that owned the landscaping company. So I played professional soccer in the Major Arena Soccer League. I then owned a team, if you could believe that. Then I owned a team with a bunch of my investors and friends that also loved the game. I went on this project. I'm a big IndyCar guy. I'm an Indiana guy. We go to the Indy 500 every single year for the past 17 years. And so I wanted to bring a the first nonprofit IndyCar team to the circuit, and it would promote our visitors bureau for people to come into Cleveland. So that was I had to raise $2 million, and I got almost there, but then it fell apart. But for me, and maybe it's just me, I couldn't do all of that, right? I think what you do and what Wahlberg does, watching his documentary, is super fascinating. I would also assume you got to have a really good team, though, too, to make sure everything kind of happens.
I don't have a big team, surprisingly.
See? Yeah.
So I would say, I think that you're better off focusing your energy on one main effort. Okay. And for a long time, I didn't know what that thing was. So that's why I did all of these different things. If you go back over the last 8 years since I started my company, because that's when I became an entrepreneur and got to do all these things, it looks like I'm all over the place. And for a while, I kind of enjoyed being that guy who could do all the things. Like I love when people say, "I don't know how you do it all." And I do have a good team that helps out, but it's not a big team. Yeah. And actually, my team at RLS Wealth is just now down to my father and I. Yeah. So it's come down. But one of the things I sometimes wonder is if I would have a greater reach had I had that focus in the past. But the good thing is now I have that focus. So if you were to look at everything that I put out today, it is all centered around helping people find and live their authentic life. Yeah. My message individually, the message at RLS Wealth, the podcast that I rebranded, it's all in one area. So I had to go through a period of time where I did all of the things, and that helped me figure out what my thing or my purpose was. But I will still have multiple ways to bring this to the world in the future. So there'll be the podcast. I've got my daily notes. I have other books I want to write. Yep. So the Pursuit brand is an extension of this as well. And the reason, if you didn't know this, the reason Scott asked about is that how you pronounce it. Pursuit is actually PRST. I stripped out all the vowels. So that's what's left over the letters. Yeah. And when I started that brand, it was a whole part of this journey. The letters stand for passion, relationships, self, and time. And I felt those were very key things to help you figure out who you really are. And it's since evolved beyond that. But I want Pursuit to be a creative collective of different things that allows me to execute and bring stories to the world. So I look at the Pursuit in the future will be a production company. So like I enjoy making little documentaries. Like I would love to do documentaries of people who are living their authentic life and showing what it's like to go pursue what it is that you want. I love music, specifically hip hop. So I would love to have a record label that if I find somebody that I think is a good up and coming artist, to be able to help them put out their first record and then help them set up their own independent label and go out on their own in the future. So Pursuit is this business that I thought was going to be one thing when I launched it. I've put on the back burner, and then that will be something in the future that will help me take what I'm building right now and implement in other ways. So I still get to do all of the things like Wahlberg and Jay-Z and Rihanna do, but they're all going to be around this concept of the authentic life and everything that comes with it. I love that. See, that's because I would agree if you looked across everything that you're doing, it all really serves one purpose, one goal, drives there, just in different ways. It's got to be kind of cool too, because you go from wealth manager to like the AGC, for example. So let's talk about that. I think that, so if you're one of our financial advisors listening, you got to check this out. When I was introduced, that's how I met you first. Yeah. It was there through Nicholas Good. Yeah, man. Nicholas. He's one of the greatest people you'll ever meet. Yeah, he is a great guy. So
he was running so I guess I'll let you tell the AGC story from an outsider's perspective why I find it so fascinating is you have this collaborative community that comes together similar to the EPI community. The difference is that they're technically all competitors.
Right.
Because it's all individual financial advisors that own their firms. Or working within a firm, and you guys are like sharing your friggin' P&L statement or like my growth strategy. So when I got in there and Nicholas came to me come in and speak to one of his small groups, it was as collaborative as you guys advertised it to be, and it was shocking to me. So when did you and Taylor, right? You and Taylor rolled that out.
Yeah. So Taylor Schulte is the other co-founder of the AGC, and we launched it back in 2019. And the whole reason it came to be was it was something that we both realized we would have liked to have early in our career.
Yeah.
And we both spent a lot of time up to that point having one-on-one Zooms with other advisors, getting our brains picked, picking their brains and just talking. So we thought, what if we put together a place for advisors who are like-minded, who are growth-minded, they want to improve professionally but also personally, and realize that we're all in this together, have an abundant mindset. What if we gave a place for everybody to get together? So we put it out on and leveraged our social media networks. And I'll never forget, we were hoping to get 50 people as our beta group.
Okay.
And we got our 50 people in 72 hours.
Yeah. What are you guys at now?
We have we kind of keep on hitting like that 150 number around there. So we're around 145.
Yeah.
We've never had a big active campaign to grow because we want to grow the community with the right people. So it's not about get as many advisors in as possible because that loses the cool community that's there. And I think one of the things that's unique about the AGC that separates us from a lot of other communities is we are community first. And so what I mean by that is if you think about other organizations that are out there, a community is a byproduct of something else. So in the financial planning world, there's the XY Planning Network. And they have a community. Yeah. And Kitsis and Alan have I was an XYPN member for a long time. But their community formed because advisors joined it to get the technology stack and get the compliance support and get registered. That was the reason they came. And then they said, we've got all these advisors, let's create a community. And there's a difference because the reason that the advisors are there are not for the other advisors. For us, the reason you come to the AGC is because you want to be around other collaborative, sharing nice advisors.
Right.
So you're coming here, and then we have discounts to vendors. We have some other things that go on, but we will tell everybody that's not why you join us. You join us because of the amazing people that are inside of it, and you join because you want to give more than you plan to get, which brings a good community, which is different. And it's been cool because I don't know if you know this. It was earlier this summer we announced that we took the AGC and merged it into Wealth Tender.
I saw that because we also work with them as well. Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. So, when Taylor and I started, we had no idea of where the community was going to go, how big it was going to be. We just said, we'll kind of go with the flow. We'll see what the community wants, and then we'll allow the community to influence kind of how we grow. And we realized at this point of our careers with our own businesses and other ventures that we're working on, we needed help. And the merger or the joining of the forces, if you will, with Wealth Tender was just kind of a natural, organic process. Brian Thorpe has created Wealth Tender. A lot of our members were already Wealth Tender members. They have a community by secondary, and we already have this great community. So it was a great fit, and now we have a great team to help run it. Taylor and I still hold our leadership roles. We still do everything we were doing beforehand in the community. We'll just have a little bit less responsibility on the back end, which frees us up to give more of us to the community and then do the other things. So it's been a great joining, and then we just welcomed another community into the community.
Oh, really?
So there's a organization called Onyx.
Okay.
And Onyx was similar to an XY Planning Network for advisors from underrepresented communities. So they had their community, and they just decided to take their community and bring it under the AGC umbrella because two communities together that are like-minded are better than two separate ones. Yeah. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah. So did anybody on Wealth Tender come back over to AGC too? Yeah. Gives you a little bit more exposure? So
the way that the relationship with Wealth Tender is going to work is, if you're not familiar with it, Wealth Tender is a consumer-facing website where people can go to find a financial advisor. Yeah. And financial advisors obviously pay to get onto the platform, and there's some marketing and SEO benefits that are there, and there's resources as well. But it's a way for consumers to find an advisor based off of what they're looking for. And it's done a really good job of matching people up. So they have tiers of membership. So where the AGC is going to plug in, it's going to be at the top tier of Wealth Tender.
Okay.
So the top tier price will be what the AGC membership price is. So it's basically like you join Wealth Tender at the top tier, you get the AGC as a part of the community, and then all the other Wealth Tender benefits as well.
Super cool.
So not all Wealth Tender members became AGC members, but they all have the opportunity to join into the community, which I think more will once they get to see it and get to experience a little bit.
Yeah, I think that I'm glad to see that going well. I think that for the advisors there that are SEPAs that we talk to, it's really beneficial because they're typically like smaller independent financial advisors too, right? Where, to your point, now you have access to some of the, what do you call those, wirehouses, right? That they have the UBSs and the Merrill Lynches and Edward Jones of the world. You have access to marketing and ideas and growth plans and all that. So I just thought it was a super cool idea to bring everybody in that is technically competing to collaborate in such a intentional and deep way. It's cool to watch.
Yeah, the only requirement of the community is you're a financial advisor.
Yep.
We have advisors in Canada, UK, India as well.
That's kind of cool.
We're global.
That's cool. Yeah.
And it's grown. So we have mastermind groups that have come out of it. We've got other groups that are inside of it. We have a weekly schedule where we do different things. Taylor leads a marketing office hours. I've told some of the community members this, but next year, my Tuesday to lead is going to be all centered around the life planning and how to incorporate that. The More Than Money book, that's actually a collection of 29 advisors in the community. Each one wrote a chapter. We got picked up by Harriman House. Morgan Housel did the cover quote. And then we're working on More Than Money 2 now. So we're going to Harriman House re-upped and said we want to do it again. So we got another book coming out sharing real life stories of financial planning to show consumers what real financial planning looks like.
Yeah.
But another cool thing about the book is it also shows advisors out there what financial planning can look like, because financial advisor is very vague.
Yes.
I came into the world as a financial advisor at an insurance-based firm. It wasn't in financial planning.
Yeah.
I wasn't a financial advisor, which is perfectly okay. But sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And if you get exposure to how advisors might be helping their clients, it may make you realize you can do more for your clients, and you would have never known that without the book. So it really serves everybody.
That's very cool. You told this story back at the summit, I think, when you got on stage for your power session. You said you used to wear a suit and tie, now you wear a white T-shirt. And that leads to really the real reason I wanted you to come on this podcast was to talk about this authentic life that you've been kind of alluding to here in our first segment. The other thing that I saw on the website recently when I was going through things was your Life Design Plus, right? So that is the system that allows you to live a more authentic life. Talk to me about that, and then we'll roll into the authentic life stuff.
Yep. So Life Design Plus is the new relationship I created. Thinking about my future and transitioning from advisor who creates to creator who's an advisor, I personally don't think my best use of my skills going forward for new clients is what I call traditional financial planning, like just regular financial planning. I still want to do that and will be continuing to do that with my existing clients. But if I'm going to take on a new client, the way I think I can drive the most value, make the greatest impact, is by helping them really figure out what is the life that they want to live.
Okay.
A lot of people are going through life kind of on autopilot. They've been set down a path by their parents or teachers or society, and they don't know, and maybe some people do know, hey, there's something else I want to do, but I just don't know how to get there. I'm afraid to do it. Yeah. That's where Life Design Plus comes in. To me, an individual that will want Life Design Plus has had success, or they've gone through life, they've done it one way and they realize that's not really who they are, and they want to move over to another path and they need help getting there. So Life Design Plus really is a combination of creating a life plan. Like if you're familiar with George Kinder's life planning, I just went through the Evoke process and I'm going through the mentorship next. Life planning will be all that I do from an advisor's capacity. So it will be creating that life plan, using that process. And then what makes it Life Design Plus is it will have ongoing coaching, which will be monthly meetings. I have a Notion dashboard really designed to help the person make sure that life comes to be a reality, and then to be there to help them figure out the things along the way. So I don't want to just create the plan and go focus on financial planning after that. I want to focus on how do I help you actually do this? And some people can do it on their own, but I think a lot of people need a coach to help them figure things out, be a sounding board for them.
Yeah, an accountability buddy too, right?
Exactly.
To make sure that we're driving and getting things done. So you're in business with your father,
And my dad retired. He's my chief people officer.
Yeah, he's your chief people. How does he feel about the direction that you want to go now with the authentic life stuff?
He likes it. I mean, my dad's one of my biggest supporters. He always has been.
It's like my dad too, man.
If I said I wanted to go, I mean, short of doing something illegal, he would be on board.
Dad would be on board. Have you always had kind of a tight relationship with Dad?
Yeah. I mean, I've been real close with both my parents. Yeah. But when he retired, I knew that he needed a little bit of support in retirement to help out, and I could use some help. But it's been really cool because we get to spend more time together. Yeah. We do a podcast that I want to bring back more regularly. So it's
you and your dad?
Yeah, it's on my All About Your Benjamins, the brand. So
All
About Your Benjamins was the first blog I launched, and that's where if I'm gonna write about finance, I write there.
Okay.
And that's what that brand's about. So we have a podcast, and it was just really documenting his entrance into retirement. He's coined it as his encore. And like, what is it like going through that? And I just want to meet with him regularly and just talk through random. It's really kind of cute. Like, he plans out the podcast. He'll send me an agenda and all these things he wants to talk about. And I just show up and wing it because it's like, that's just how I normally do things.
Yeah.
But the real reason there's value in that podcast, and the episodes with my dad and I always get the most downloads. I know. They always get the most feedback because of him. But I think of it as I also want to do that podcast just from a legacy play, so that like one day he's not going to be here, and I'll have this archive of our conversations that I can go back, or I can have my kids watch or grandkids. It'd be kind of cool just to have all that documented. In addition to, he has a lot of real good things to say.
Yeah, I try to have my dad on this podcast like once a quarter, right? And to your point about moving into retirement, our listeners know that Dad and I have been really working on getting Dad out of the business, right? So the last 3 years, I think we've pretty much almost entirely decentralized him. We hit a huge milestone last year in our November SEPA program. It was the first program that Dad had not attended. So we've owned EPI for 12 years. We, started having 4 SEPA programs a year, then we had 8, and now in the virtual world, we do 11 a year. And Dad's at every single one of them except that one in November, right? So that was a big milestone to see how decentralized we were. But with the personal planning and Encore, just made me think that the episode that I'm recording with Dad is all about estate planning and personal planning and him moving into that next act and phase of his life. So it's very cool. I always think the father-son team kind of things is a lot of wisdom, a lot of fun, and then it's cool to one day when Dad's not around, you kind of have this archive of all these cool and interesting and funny things that you guys had talked about. So I want to dive into the authentic life stuff. I'm going to take a quick break, but when we dive in, I want to. That's this new brand that you created that I think we saw a little bit at the summit. Yeah. But I think it's way more advanced now. Even you've changed even the way you're branding yourself online. So we'll get back to that just after a quick break. Stick with us.
For business owners, by a business owner. Walking to Destiny is your essential resource for understanding what makes your business highly profitable and significant. It becomes a business owner's handbook to know how to rapidly grow value and ultimately unlock the personal wealth trapped in business. Exit Planning Institute CEO Christopher Snider demonstrates how strategic exit planning will help you achieve improvements today while positioning you to build wealth for generations. Secure your success along other value creators. Discover, prepare, and decide what your walk to destiny will ultimately be. If executed correctly, these strategies can grow a business owner's wealth by 10 times. Walking to Destiny, the second edition, the 11 actions an owner must take to rapidly grow value and unlock wealth. Get your copy today at www.walkingtodestiny.com.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast. So we've been kind of dancing around this authentic life stuff, so now I want to dive right in. So let's just start at the top. What does it mean to live a more authentic life?
So my belief is we all exist for a specific reason. So whomever or whatever your creator is created you with a certain set of gifts and skills and talents that if you bring them to the world will kind of complete the whole picture.
Okay.
So to me, figuring out what that is and using those to serve the world is what we're supposed to do. Most people, because of other influences and just the way life is, they don't know, they haven't discovered that. And we're not taught this. So to me, authentic life is living the life that you were created to live, which allows you to, follow your passions, do the things that you're best at, there's a concept in Japan called ikigai, which I'm sure most people have heard of, at the intersection of those circles. It's very similar to that. Like, I think your authentic life is finding that ikigai concept. So it's really about stepping into who you are. And the way that I think that you get there, if you're not already there, which I believe most of us probably aren't.
Well, when I was doing the power session about purpose, I think it was a couple years ago, 72% of Americans I found in the research I was doing to get prepped go through their entire life with no sense of purpose or meaning. So you're exactly right.
And purpose doesn't have to be your career. So one of the things that's very tough about the authentic life, especially since it's the early days of kind of describing what it is I don't want it to be so narrow that people miss that it could be. So a lot of times we identify ourselves with our career, like you mentioned with the business. Yeah. That could be it, but it's not necessarily that. You will know what your authentic life is. And what I have found through my own experience of one way to find it is through aligning your spirit, your mind, and your body. And ultimately your money plays into it, because I'm a financial advisor, but money touches everything. So the way I think to find your authentic life, to consider doing it, is to kind of identify and connect to your spiritual self, however you do that. Connect to your mind and use the mind to benefit you rather than pull you back, because your mind is extremely powerful. If you believe it, you can achieve it. Like, there's a lot of truth to that. And then taking care of your physical body. And those all connect, because if you can connect to your spiritual self, and that is your connection to your creator, you begin to figure out what you're supposed to do. We talk about our passions and the things that we love. Yeah. Well, I think that your heart is kind of where you receive these messages. So if you know what it is you're supposed to be doing, your passions, your interests, the things you're called to do, then you know that that's part of the equation. But you need your mind to believe that that is possible and that that's what you're supposed to be doing before it can ever happen. And then your body, obviously you need to physically be able to do it. But then if we're not taking care of ourselves and you don't feel good, that begins to pull your mind away from the alignment with the spirit, because now your mind's thinking about how bad you feel, and that leads you down. So that connection, if you get those all aligned, however you need to do that, I think you find a better chance of figuring out who you really are. You find that internal happiness instead of seeking happiness from the outside world who isn't going to give it to you. And now you have a better understanding of who you are, what you're supposed to be doing, and now you can begin to move forward to that. And then the money part of the connection is, once you find that life, that authentic life, now we can create a plan that will allow you to financially make that happen. You know what you need to do to move forward. So
where did you find yours? So I guess before the break, I was talking about your story, and I took the suit off. You actually showed a picture or something. It was funny to see you actually.
The face, yeah.
Like I just to know you now, I was like, that's just so different than who you are today. But when did it click for you? Were you unhappy? Were you just like, man, were you, when you talk about mind, body, spirit, were you like not fit? Like, where did it start for you?
I look back and it started, I think I've always been on this pursuit of finding it. I just didn't know it all the time. Yeah. So I've always been drawn to being who I am, even in the days where I was wearing the suit. But it was really when I left that firm that I was wearing the suit in that picture and started my own company. And when I started RLS Wealth, I said, I'm just going to be me all the time. Yes. I don't ever think I was fake in the past, but I never got to fully be me.
I totally agree.
Not hiding my tattoos, not hiding my love of hip hop, and just being me. And if somebody doesn't like that, then that's perfectly okay. And when I did that, I had a higher sense of happiness. So I never would look back and say I was unhappy or that I was frustrated. I think that the term I would use would be discontentment. And I think that you can be discontent and still be happy, because I was. If you find me back in time in that suit, I would told you I have a great life. I have a beautiful family. I'm doing what I enjoy. There's a great opportunity in front of me. I wasn't unhappy, but I was discontent. And the discontent followed me even when I started my own company, because the discontent was what led me to do all of the things, trying to find out what's the thing I'm supposed to do, what's my purpose in this grand scheme. And then it was I say burnout, but that's really dramatic. There was a period of time where I had RLS Wealth. I was chief of staff at a startup. Okay. I had the AGC, and I was doing all of the things.
Yeah, you were the doer. Yeah.
And then I realized I was doing too much. And I completed an exercise with a mentor of mine of lining out my ideal day. And one day when I realized that I was doing too much, I wasn't taking care of myself. And I've been an athlete my whole life, and that's been something that's a part of who I am. And I realized I wasn't doing that. I wasn't sleeping right. And I looked at my daily schedule. And if I removed the chief of staff, which really was not a part of my plan, I don't regret it. It was a fun time, and I learned a lot. Yeah. If I removed that, I had my ideal day. And I was like, well, that's my ideal day, except my ideal day is really in California, not in Indiana, but everything else was there. If that's my ideal day and it's right in front of me, how can I not make the change. And so when I took that off my plate, was no longer chief of staff, I got back to taking care of myself. I got into yoga. Meditation finally stuck. I just think it was the right time. And then I found an alignment of spirit, mind, and body. I became more spiritual, practicing mindfulness more, got back to taking care of myself. And then when I had those things aligned, it was a new level of happiness. And then, that was like, if this worked for me, it's got to be able to work for other people. And I want more people to experience what I'm experiencing now. And my trajectory from that point of having that alignment to where I am now has been so fast. It's been like way up. And it's because of that alignment. So it was kind of just all along the way. And as I look back, there's so many breadcrumbs that are like leading me to where I sit today. It's kind of funny.
It's kind of weird to kind of look back. Yeah. I totally get what you're saying too. I made that change in my life. I heard Gino Wickman, who's the guy that started EOS, who spoke at our conference as a keynote speaker, but he didn't speak on the EOS, the traction stuff that a lot of us know as SEPAs and as business owners. He spoke on his new stuff, which is this EOS Life, which is kind of similar to what you're talking about, finding this like balance and blend and following his 10 things. And I said, we should talk about that because it bleeds into the personal planning side of the exit planning, stuff. And he told this, I'm sitting in the audience and I just heard him tell this story. And he goes, he said it was my 40th birthday. My wife had thrown me a surprise party. And there was like a little stage where they wanted me to say some words. So I got up on stage and he said, and he's a professional speaker and everything, for the first time in his life, he was kind of speechless because he looked across the round tables and he saw 6 different groups of people. And he said, who am I going to be today? So he saw his employees, he saw his church friends, he saw his family, he saw his customers, and he goes, I'm different, not different bad, to your point, right? But just not the same person in each one of these groups. And that's when he said, I need to make a change. I never want to do that. And that hit me. And then when I met you and you were talking about this blend of mind, body, spirit kind of stuff. I think I lack on the spirit and the mind. I think that's what it is, right? Yeah, spirit, mind, body. Yep. So I think maybe mind I'm good, body, spirit lacking. I'm an athlete as well. So getting back into the gym and taking care of yourself. I think there's another lady that spoke at our conference that talks about some studies the health of effective leaders, not just their leadership style. So talk to me about the spiritual side, because that's the one I'm lost. So I told you even pre-show we were laughing about my parents being kind of like conservative Christian type folks and that life. I lost that, if I'm being totally honest with you. I lost that Christian values, if you will, when I got my divorce, and just totally lost faith, and I haven't ever really walked back into it. But what's spiritual for you? Because you're talking about meditation and stuff.
So I grew up Catholic too. So
okay.
Catholic school
so you get
fourth grade. Yeah. My parents still go to church. I would still say, if you asked me my religion, I would say Catholic still.
Yeah, sure.
To me, I want to leave spirituality broad.
Yeah, of course.
To me, spirituality is just believing that we are a small little speck on this big universe. We are not the world. Yeah. We are a small little piece of it, and that there is a higher power that created all of this.
Yeah.
It could be, it could be the God that we think of. Yep. It could be anything. Because I don't think that the spirituality you practice is important to being able to find your authentic life. I think it's the understanding that you are a part of a bigger system and there is something that created you, and accepting that and connecting to whatever that creator is, to me, is what spirituality is. So I think any religion can follow this. It's just having that sense of purpose of being part of a greater scheme.
Yeah, I like that. That makes sense.
So I wouldn't I do meditation more, but I've gotten really more in tune with nature, which was not me growing. My wife kind of jokes at me because I have a spirit animal. It sounds wild. So
here we go.
In Indiana, there's a bald eagle population. I didn't know that. I've lived there my whole life. And I don't know if I was 37 or 38. It was the first time I ever saw a bald eagle in the wild. Okay. And now I regularly see bald eagles, and they always show themselves whenever I'm in this kind of creative process, or I'm thinking about something, and I look up the meaning of a bald eagle spiritually. It's bald eagles are basically a sign from your guardian angels telling you you're going in the right direction.
Interesting.
And so they show themselves when it would be, I'm thinking of doing this, And higher powers are telling me, yes, you should move forward. So like that is part of my spirituality, is I have this connection now to a bigger force that is not defined by one being. It's just everything together. And once I found that, like the synchronicities that happen in my life, like people think they're coincidences, but like the synchronicity in my life is wild.
It's got to be, it's got to bring you a lot of clarity too. So like maybe like the bald eagle was always around, you just never noticed it. But now that you can balance that spirit, mind, body, it's just, you can actually be you're more aware, you're clearer, and then you could be more intentional and deliberate about it too. That's interesting too, when you kind of clean yourself up there. You know?
And I'm aware that some of this stuff sounds crazy. Like people look at numbers, but I'm starting to see my boys pick up on this, which I think is phenomenal. That's cool. Because if I would have known these things, actually, I think I've always known it. I just didn't know that I knew it. Like I look back at things that I did as a child. Yeah. Now I understand. Oh, that's like the law of attraction. Or I've always been optimistic, and that what you put out is what you attract. Like I've always known that. But like Roman now starts to see bald eagles, and Leo, my middle child, he sees like the repeating numbers, and there's beliefs that repeating numbers are messages as well. So he'll always catch 333 and 444, and he gets excited about it. So
he gets excited.
And I know he's not constantly looking for it. Yeah. So those things could be easily dismissed as coincidence. But I've had enough of them, and I've talked to enough people to realize there's a greater force causing those things, and there are meanings behind them. A lot of us just aren't present enough, or we're not aware enough to see them. But there are these little cues and signals from a higher power kind of helping you along the way, guiding you where you're supposed to be, if you're there to receive them.
If you're there to receive them. I had Carrie Siggins on. She's the CEO of Stone Age, and out from Denver, Colorado area. And she said, I asked her about when she wrote her book. She said she was a big trail runner. So she said, I was thinking about writing this book, and I've had this in my head for a while. I want to tell this story. And she said, as I started to run, and I was thinking about this in depth on my run, I started to look around, and there was hundreds of rabbits in the woods. Like, and so talk about signs. I think about that story because she said she was like, Scott, I'm not messing around. It was like absurd how many rabbits were out and about that I literally stopped and then started videoing. So I had proof of this, but it could be a sign, right? That could be another sign. So when you combine all those three things, what you talked a little bit, or you alluded to your ideal day. What's that like for you? Because for Carrie, for example, using her for example, she's got an 11-year-old son. And she said, I don't work past 6. It's like, so it's that. Is it a schedule thing for you? What's it look like? What's the ideal day for you?
The ideal day, there is a schedule component to it, but it's flexible.
It's fluid, yeah.
So but really for me, it's being able to do certain things. So it's being able to do my morning routine of getting up and doing some exercise, meditating, doing journaling.
You meditate every day?
I don't. I should, but I don't.
Okay.
I'm not.
I should.
I have this method and I have this belief, but I'm human. I don't practice it perfectly.
Yeah. Right. Of course. Yeah.
But also I think there's multiple ways to meditate. So I may not sit down, close my eyes, meditate, but there'll be times throughout the day where I am clear of mind, which would be like a meditation. You don't have to be lotus position, hands up, meditating. You can do a walking meditation. So I meditate in different ways, but the ideal day would be sitting down, doing my transcendental meditation and practicing that. And then it's being present with the boys in the morning, getting them ready. And then I write a daily note each day, which is kind of cool because I write that note every single day, but I don't know what I'm going to write till I wake up. It's like I download it in the morning and then translate it for everybody else. It's kind of cool.
You can see that on your website, right? You have those up on your website
on
every
website.
day.
I'm 336 days in a row. I haven't missed. And I've never created anything with that consistency in the past.
That's pretty disciplined.
Then I go do yoga at 9:30 every morning, my hot yoga. Like I have people.
You do hot yoga?
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, man. Yeah,
I love it. One day I want to get certified to be a yoga instructor. I love it.
It's that California vibe, man. You will be out there in Southern California at some point when your boys get older or something.
Oh, totally. When the boys are out of school, it's like a serious consideration. Then go to work. So go see my clients. So like it's not that my ideal day is not working and not being an advisor, but it's being able to do those things, see my clients, and then having time in the afternoon to be creative. Right? Podcast, video, go use my camera, but just express myself creatively and then explore these things I have interest in. And then have another workout, more weight centric in the afternoon. Get home in the evening and then get into evening. We have practices and games and then kind of wrap up. So there's not anything crazy in it. The exercise is pretty cool because it's like what are you eating for breakfast? Who are you with? Where are you? Like, it's very, very detailed, and you're not allowed to have any buts in it because then you rule things out. And if your ideal day is possible, why would you rule anything out? But my ideal day is really, I just want to be able to take care of myself, have substantial time to take care of me, take care of my clients, and then be creative. And how that manifests through the day, that's not super important to me, just that I get to do all of those things.
So it's really, I totally agree too. I think that people get stuck on that routine, right? Yeah. And then it's almost like it's so routine that when you skip it, it actually has negative effects.
Right. Or you become I think routines are good, but I also think routines can be bad because then you become robotic. And now you start to just go through the motion. So I think there's a healthy balance between having structure, but also having freedom to fall off of that structure without blowing things up of your workout routine or something like that.
Exactly. Totally agree.
Stuck on the routine, you miss it, then it's hard to get back into it.
It's hard to get back into it. And then it's like, to me, it's like has a negative effect on your day. You're like, oh man, I didn't go to the gym. So to me, I like that approach where you're taking different elements and then putting them together. So to your point, it doesn't really matter how it, I guess, manifests itself in the day, as long as they all kind of get done. So you're doing hot yoga every day? Like for the most part.
The goal is 4 days a week, hot yoga.
4 days a week. And you go to like a hot yoga studio and stuff? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's right on the way to work. So I drop the boys off, go there, shower up, and then my first meeting's never till 11:30, so that allows me to shower and not rush in.
Yeah.
Getting that ideal day, one of the things I had to realize is that I always thought being selfless was like the best way to serve people. And part of being selfless is what led me to doing too much and sacrificing myself.
Yeah.
And I had a mentor tell me that you need to put yourself first, which is hard for me to realize. But I realized it the hard way, you can't be your best for everybody else if you don't take care of yourself. And I think of it like concentration. So I can give my family more hours of me, but a lower concentration, lower percentage because I'm just burned out. Yep. Or I can give them fewer hours, but give them 100% of me, a full dose. Yeah. And that shorter amount of time, but more of me is better.
Way
than more
better,
hours.
especially for your kids, man. Right. Like that's they'd rather spend that kind of time with dad. Than I totally get it. So let's bring in the money side.
Yeah.
Because I love how you then relate this to planning for your financial future. And it makes a lot of sense as you talk through it, right? It's like, I need to know who I am before I can possibly wrap a financial plan around what I want to go do, right? So how do you bring in the money side then to this authentic life?
So once we know what that authentic life looks like, you can reverse engineer how do you fund it? What do you need? So I think it's really important to find out what that life is and do the life plan first and then bring money to it because money touches everything. I would love to say, hey, you find your authentic life, money doesn't matter. I do think when you find your authentic life and you have this alignment, money becomes a lot easier because now I think you can identify greater purpose to your dollars. I think a lot of our money struggles come from seeking happiness. Yeah. And when we don't have it internally, we seek external happiness. So we're buying things to impress people who aren't paying attention to us. Retail therapy, all these things that we're spending money with no purpose because we're trying to find happiness. Yep. Well, if you find it inside, you have it, and you have this life that you really want, you don't necessarily have to allocate those dollars away, and you can be more intentional. And that opens it up to maybe you need less money to live the life that you want. But I also think there's the possibility that once you find that authentic life and you're doing the thing that only you can do, that no one else can do better than you, that lends the opportunity for you increasing your income over time because you're the best. Yeah. You're the Michael Jordan of whatever it is. We can all be Michael Jordan of whatever it is we do if we find that thing. So I think that's the most important. And then bringing money to it is that's just what we do as advisors. We plan for that. Planning for that life with the numbers is not difficult. It's figuring out what that life is the hard part. And I think the tremendous opportunity that we as advisors and all of the SEPA advisors is, I think people want to live a life of purpose and live a life that they really want to.
I agree.
And we have the ability to help them do that financially. I think sometimes people have an idea of what they want, but they never go after it because they don't know how they're going to make it work with their numbers. They never sit down to crunch the numbers. They don't have the skill set to do it. They don't have the tools. We have those things to be able to help them, along with experience of things to be worried about or concerned about along that path. Yeah. So I think we have the opportunity to not just help people plan to get through life. We can help people actually live their lives the way they want to and help them bring their finances to it.
Yeah, super purposeful work. I think that. And I think a different and unique approach the way you do financial advisory, right? I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people. So if I were to become a client of yours, do I start there with you? Do you take me
going forward? Going forward, the first thing we do is we go through George Kinder's life planning process. Okay. He has a process called Evoke. Yep. And it is a series of meetings over a few weeks going through exploring what your life is supposed to be, creating a visualization, what it is, going over the obstacles. And then with that, we really have the plan of the life that you want. And it's a really cool process.
Okay.
And then once you get that, now you can bring the numbers to it. So we would go through that. Depending on the situation and your concerns, maybe we would go do a traditional financial plan first. Like, let's just say you were concerned. Let's go ahead and do the plan, make sure everything's on a good path for the life you're living now.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about that. And then we can go through and work on the life that you want. And then now we can adjust this plan to align with that.
Okay. And so that's the starting point for you, is going through those. And what's the next step, right? Because I'm assuming this is not easy stuff.
So the next step is one of two things. The life plan is created.
Okay.
And if we mutually decide that we should execute the financial plan through RLS Wealth, then we would step into the financial planning relationship.
Okay.
So it's actually two separate engagements, if you will, a life plan and then potentially a financial plan.
Okay.
Where I honestly see myself going in the future is I help you construct the life plan, because I think that's something that I can do better than a lot of advisors. Which is not to be arrogant, but I think it's it's one of my gifts.
That's a gift. That's a uniqueness too.
And I would rather do that, give you the life plan, and then connect you with a financial advisor who's going to go do all of the tax planning strategies, estate planning strategies to align with that. So I think that that's where most of it will go. And then the other potential step would be you want to work together more closely one-on-one going forward to kind of work through the bringing this to life. Then that would be the Life Design Plus. So there's Life Design, which is the life plan.
Yeah.
And Life Design Plus incorporates the coaching with it.
I think critical, if you're a business owner, if you're a business owner listening, this is critical stuff. It's like when you look at the research that we always have, right? 75% of owners profoundly regret selling their business just a year after selling it. It's usually not because they didn't have a sound financial strategy or didn't get a good offer. It's because they didn't investigate this whole authentic life stuff. They didn't investigate who they are. So that is kind of so that directs the next phases of their life. So the other question I have for you, and kind of winding down the show, is, so what do your kids think about this? How I think it would be a cool opportunity to showcase to your boys. What can you imagine now? What's your youngest? How old is he?
Silas is 6.
So if he's 6 and he can see this authentic life, and you can have that impact on him, what his life is going to be like. Because you said, I didn't grow up like this, right? I just found this just a few years ago and started running this way. So what are your kids doing? You saw that they're seeing signs now.
Yeah.
Are they going to hot yoga with you too, or what?
They'll go sometimes. I mean, they're not taking... They take in more than I realize.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Which is really cool. And they are interested. So one of the things I've done recently, one of the things I want to do is do more speaking and make that part of my business.
Yeah, I agree.
And I said, I'm not going to wait around. I'm just going to create my own speaking series. So I created a series called Keep Pursuing Series. It's 5 talks. I've done 4 of them. And I did it at my local coffee shop. Free tickets. Eventually I'll charge to donate. But
I saw this on your LinkedIn, I think. Yeah.
So they're 35, 40-minute talks. They all center around this concept of the authentic life in different aspects. Each talk stands on its own, but the whole series paints a whole picture. Because I know that 5 weeks is a lot to ask somebody to commit to. So if you come to 3 and 5, you're still going to walk away with something to think about and go through. And this past week, I gave my 4th one, which I think was my best one so far.
Okay, talk about it.
It was about regaining control of your mind and the power of your mind and mindset.
Yeah.
And Roman didn't get to go because he had a basketball game.
Of course.
And I missed his game, which I rarely miss. But after I picked him up, one of the first things he asked me was, "How's your talk go?"
Yeah.
And like the fact that he's at that age where we battle and he's testing his identity. The fact that like his first question was, "How did your talk go?"
Yeah.
How did my voice quiver a little bit there? Like it was really cool. Like
so very, very
they
cool.
are listening. They do think it's cool and they are paying attention. And my only hope is this is something I had to realize as a parent. I can't force them to do the things I know they should do. Because they're their own individual. They have their own path that they're supposed to follow, and I can't change that.
Yeah.
So the best thing I can do is plant a bunch of seeds and help them realize these things sooner, and hopefully with less pain than maybe I had to go through or other people go through. So to me talking about it all the time, they hear it at home all the time. I'm just planting seeds to help them figure this out sooner. So if they can learn what I learned at 39 and they pick it up at 25, then they are light years ahead of me, and their life will be so much better because of it.
What's your wife think about all this stuff going on?
She supports it.
Is your marriage better because you've found this authentic life? Has impacts there in your relationships?
I can't think of a definite change.
Yeah.
I would like to think that I am a better husband and better father because of finding this alignment. But again, going back to pre-alignment, I wasn't unhappy. I'm happier. So I definitely think it's benefit, but I can't look and say, like our marriage was on the cusp of divorce and now we're not. Like it's always been good.
Yeah, it's always been good.
But I'd like to say, but
you're just more intentional now.
Right.
So your family has to kind of feel it along the way because you have purpose and meaning and you know where you want to go. I think it's quite interesting.
I think my wife is probably glad that I now have this focus because she's the one that always heard all my wild ideas and things I wanted to try.
Yeah,
and she would just laugh at me and but now she knows that like this really is my thing. So everything centers around it. So it's not like what's the new idea Justin's going to have now? It's like, oh, this is just adding onto it.
Yeah.
And I have tons of ideas of things I want to do with this as things go. But what I'm realizing is it's a process. And 100%. I have to kind of basically rebrand myself because this is what I talked about on stage. Like I have a brand in the advisor community and in the space that is still true to who I am. It's just now it's evolved. So now I need to see, and I want people to see me in a different light. I'm still going to be the advisor that is himself, that listens to hip hop, that likes branding, but I'm not going to be talking about that as much anymore. Everything out of my mouth is going to be connected to the authentic life because the only way that I get known for that is that's the only thing you
just got to become it, right? You just got to, absolutely. Well, man, I really appreciate you driving all the way in, man. This was great, and I hope you guys loved it out there as well. Tune in to our next show, which is April 10th. So make sure you subscribe, listen, and leave a review on all of your podcast platforms. Justin, man, really appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you guys next time.